So the last time we met 2 weeks ago, you guys tasked me with a couple of chores to do some research and some projections, and I've done that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you two could share. I can share one. Pass those around. So what you're going to see here is the original cost projections that the town had, that Audra and that the consultant had used to project revenues for last year, for the first year. And then so that's on the first page of this. And on the second page, you'll see in the second, I just basically copied and pasted this table. And if you go back to the first page for a second, they were assuming 7 days, 7 hours per day. Can you pass that? Actually, can you pass that back? Sure. Thanks, Holly. They were projecting the same hours all 7 days. In reality, when we launched the program last year for 2 weeks, Sundays we only metered or enforced from noon to 5. So we had to. So when you see the additional pages, you'll see that I've broken down to include Sunday as different hours than the other 6 days of the week, so that was a little more accurate. Also on the second page, you'll see at the top of the box in blue, that notes the changes that I've made. So option 1, I've adjusted the season, I've adjusted the hours to account for fewer on Sundays, and then this is reflecting a season of May 23 to October 31, and with no changes in the hours. That's the projected revenue. And I used this, I don't know when John Burke, the consultant, was going through this in the years before I worked with this last year. I don't know the rationale for using using $1 as opposed to $2 an hour. I'm going to assume that some of that has to do with this. Someone only parks for. We have a minimum of 1 hour, so that's $1. Even though it's $2 per hour, and so that would make sense why you would only use $1 per hour. But that's being used in here, and I just don't exactly understand the rationale 100%. But I'm just using it just to do as much apples to apples as I could. So then on the second option number 2, this is where I played with the hours, adjusting the hours for the 6 days of the week, from 10 to 5 to make it 8 to 8, and then I extended the hours at the end of the day on Sundays to 8 p.m. as well, and then that's what the revenue ends up being if you adjust those hours, but you leave it at $2 per hour. Option number 3 is going back to the original hours per day of enforcement, 10 to 5 on 6 days and then noon to 5 on Sundays, but increasing it to $3 per hour. And that's the revenue. And you can see that increasing the hourly rate it actually is less money than if you increase the hours of enforcement.
Right.
So just for.
But that is assuming that it'd be used that the parking spots are filled 8 to 8.
You're assuming that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that may account for why you don't use a full $2 per hour when you multiply it out. And then this is where I used the $3 per hour, but then went back to the original hours, I believe. Yeah, went back to original hours using the $3.
And dates, not just hours, right?
Dates I always use the date range that I changed the date on all of these tables.
Except October,
seasonal
except option 4 is back to October 15th.
No, shouldn't. That's incorrect. If you look at on the right-hand side, I did use the same number of days as actually.
All right.
I just didn't highlight that in blue, and I didn't change.
Okay.
I didn't make that. So that's a mistake there. But for 2026, I used always the May 23 to October 31st season. So on option number 3, where I've adjusted the hour the rate, but kept the original hours. I increased the projected meter revenue to 150, just to play with that, just to see what that did, and that you can see that it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. And then,
Holly, what was was the number of what's the difference between option 4 and option 3?
Looks like the rate's higher from
Yeah, the rate's
150 to-
higher.
Just a higher rate but the same amount of
Yeah.
hours?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you can play with we can experiment and play with hours of the enforcement and the hourly rate. Really as much as you want to.
So one other thing on option 4, you know how you were bringing up what he was using $1?
Yeah,
You're using $2.
Yeah,
And that's what we're using, right? That's what we're charging, right?
yeah, and then,
So this is really the more accurate number.
well, I don't know why he used $1 to start out with.
Net difference?
Or it's an average. I just
Just
don't
assuming-
know.
There's a note on the bottom saying that it's to account for the free parking for residents too.
Well, yeah, there's that. Well, that's why it's only 95 cents. He removed 5% to account for that.
Okay, I see.
I just don't know why he used the $1 to start out with. But I think for projections, it just sort of the exercise just kind of shows, which can make, which can project more revenue, which has to do with extending the hours of enforcement versus, yes.
I'm not sure I understand how you arrived at 195 per hour. Oh my, speaking to
I
my
just was playing.
195 per, I mean, that would assume a $4 an hour per hour. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you're at $3, then an hour would be $1.50 per hour.
Assuming that
I'm not
it's.
sure where the 195 comes from, just.
I just threw that. I don't, until I find out what the rationale is for using $1, which looks like 50%. I just don't know, really. So I just kind of threw that number in there because I can go back and ask John why. But just for playing with the numbers.
One of the things we were asked to consider last time was changing the rate,
Right.
changing times and rate, so $4
Right,
an hour.
for
So
sure.
I think one of the reasons to
So that
look
would be
at,
4.
Yeah.
right, which was
Yeah.
one of the things we asked Holly to
Yeah.
check out.
One of
And,
the,
yeah,
sorry, one of the other things that Allison, I don't know if everybody read her email, she sent it out, I think it was this
Yeah.
morning. She had talked about different streets potentially having different rates.
Right.
So when you're driving in during the summer, there's that stretch on Main Street
Yeah.
where it's very crowded. I wonder if that had a higher rate, even maybe than the highest. And then the little stretch from like Mechanic to, right past Collins Shop. Like, I wonder if that, which seems to be like the busiest, most congested corridor, if there was an alternative rate for that specific area.
right.
I don't know. Just throwing
Yes.
it out there.
So
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, so I did some more research just in, not just this, and in kind of looking at, what causes the most pushback for paid parking, what seems to work the most if you want to not just increase revenue, but keep the movement going, which is really what you're looking for, because that helps the businesses to have that movement on the streets. So the demand pricing, which is what Allison had mentioned, is currently the gold standard model of what communities use. The bottom line is that people that in a tourist town, visitors don't really care
No.
whether it's $1 or $2 or $4 an hour. All they want is they want a parking space that they can go in, go shopping, and then, do whatever they're going to do. What kind of pricing? So to do demand pricing, that requires that you, in addition to demand pricing, you also want to understand where your congestion areas are. And I was able to pull a little bit of data from the 2 weeks that we had paid parking last summer, and learn that the public landing was one of the most used. 6.9% of parking was there. Second to the public landing, actually it's more like 11-12% because there's two different kiosks over on the public landing. Main Street
Right.
was the second. And Chestnut was third. That small stretch of Chestnut.
And John Burke had done that. He said, these are the areas that have the highest use.
Right. And one of the problems that I've run into in trying to look at some data is that when we decided at the very last minute to add the app option, because we didn't want to, when we first started out, we only wanted to use the kiosk and make it very easy for people to sort of get started. But then there was a request to do the app, which I think worked out really, really well, according to my data that I've seen, which is like more than 50% of the users use the app. Unfortunately, the app doesn't tell me where people parked. So,
Yeah, but the
To
study,
use the app, if we had zones, they'd have to be
Right.
different. You check into one zone or the other zone.
Right.
And then they would see whether you're not in the right zone.
right. So when you use the app, you can, it can pick up on where people are relative to where they're, logging into the app, and it can show them, which zone. They can choose a zone, or it can also tell which zone they're in just based on their location. So ideally, what I want to do to be able to collect data is divide up the zones, which I'm having a meeting with the Flowbird people next week to kind of put some of these things into motion of what we want to do to be able to collect data so that we can make adjustments with good information behind it and reasons.
so if you don't use the app, though, you're using the kiosk, right?
Right,
If you
right.
go to the kiosk and you gotta like enter something.
Right. And you're going to
Put your zone or something.
logically go to the nearest kiosk that you just parked to.
That's what the
So
whole
you don't even
idea-
really need to enter the zone. If we zone the kiosks,
Right.
I mean, they're identified they're already zoned basically because they all have individual names.
Yeah.
So I can see
I mean,
which,
you would see that on the kiosk, though, right?
Yeah.
So you'd know, like you could just have a different rate for the different area.
so that's the other thing is once you understand where you've got these congestion points, you can then start adjusting your pricing because the whole idea, it's not to make money, right? I mean, there is that component, but the reality is that we want to keep traffic moving. And the goal for a lot of these communities is to always try to have one space open per block.
Yeah.
And so that requires that you have to have a little bit of a threshold of, a price point of what you're willing to pay to be there, and how long you're willing to be there for that price point.
The other thing too, when John went over all this, and this is an important part, is that if you don't have the open spaces, you create more traffic problems because people are looping.
Yeah.
Like he said, like 50% of the traffic, is that?
I think it was about that.
There's 50% of the traffic's people looking for a parking space.
Right.
So when you create that sweet spot where the spaces are more available.
That's not a real number.
What do you mean, the 50%?
That's,
I mean, he's
you're telling me
saying,
50% of people driving down Route 1 or
well, he's saying
it's their
like
second
during
time through
peak,
town looking for parking
during
space?
peak time, there was this, he says you stand there and you see people that are just.
I mean, 90% of the traffic going through isn't stopping in Camden.
I'm sure it's different at different
Yeah.
points
We
in
could dive
time.
into that report. It's in that report.
It's in the report.
Yeah.
But the whole idea behind it is a lot of the congestion is caused by people looping, looking for traffic.
Sure.
High percentage of.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, like I said, I wasn't sure of the percentage,
Yeah.
but
I mean, there's a lot of other factors. I mean, there's congestion caused by delivery, and unfortunately, there's congestion caused by people trying to park. So it's actually when there's no parking spots, it goes through quicker because no one's trying to figure out how to parallel park their car. So there's other, there's a lot of
if they're not
factors.
trying to find a parking space.
Right.
Because they're gonna loop back around. I mean, that was the whole reason why we had to like probably change the traffic flow pattern on.
Yeah.
On what is it, Cross Street, right? Because people would turn that left there to loop around.
Yeah.
That was creating all that congestion, and that's why everybody wanted that to be a one-way.
Yeah, I guess I would encourage this committee. I mean, Holly, it's great to have these options, but it just seems like we're a pretty small town to be trying to nitpick each space and have a different rate for each space and have a different, like, I think we've only implemented it for 2 weeks. So I would encourage us to like maybe do it for 1 year. So we've got, and keep things simple as far as like, make every day the same. You know, don't have different rates for this day versus this day, different times for this day versus this day, different rates for different spots. And it just seems like adding complexity. It makes signage harder, right? I mean, all of a sudden you have signs that are like, well, this space over here is this much,
Yeah.
or this one, or
That's why I was asking about the key.
Sundays only. It's just a lot of variables that it seems like if you can I mean, right now we're just trying to implement the system as is. Like, it'd be
We
really
talked
nice to
about
keep
it,
it really
though.
simple.
We had talked about it at the last meeting though, and if we left it the way that it is, it wasn't going to pay for itself. Is that correct?
It wasn't going to make the money that was projected that we would make. It was, that was. what
To,
was said.
to cover the purchase of the machines in, you know. I don't know the answer to that for sure, but I can find that one out.
Okay.
It's definitely probably not going to do it the first year. But by year 2, yeah, we'll only have to use a portion of year 2's revenue to finish paying off, and then the rest of it, you know, goes
Because
forward.
It's not like that bad of an ROI.
No,
No.
you should, a 5-year turnaround is acceptable, or 3,
Yeah.
you know.
In terms, yeah, I actually, I agree with Tyler in terms of the simplicity, like, and as like I'm sure with the library too, people come in asking like, how does this work? Like, where am I supposed to pay? Like, there's people
Right.
coming in asking questions all the time, and the simpler it is, the easier, instead of saying, you don't want to park on that street, because it goes twice as much as this other street.
Right.
I think keeping it simple in one rate, whether we change that rate.
Yeah, if you move the
is
whole
fine.
rate up, I think that would be
that's
a
yeah.
reasonable way to do it.
If we still look at changing hours and
What are the
rates, I think
hours?
that's a better
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, so.
I just didn't know if hours were already on, if we already had signs implemented that when we swap hours, all of a sudden now your thing has to have.
Really?
One
different hours.
of the things we didn't do was inundate with a lot of signs.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, that was good, but on the other hand, it wasn't helpful.
Sure.
And so I think we absolutely need to improve on, you know, the communication piece and just put more signage up, whether it's on the kiosks themselves.
I think having it on the kiosk.
or
makes a lot
elsewhere,
of
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Just because you just put all these signs everywhere and.
Well, that way it can be more of a temporary decal or something. that
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a sticker,
Yeah.
and if you
Like
need to
putting a
implement
post in
different
the
hours.
ground and on Main Street, it's just like, there's a lot of signs already.
Yeah, the
Butters
stickers,
things up.
the decals on the machines are really good. And
Yeah,
it's
I like
really
that idea
a
the best.
feasible way to do that. And
then
they're
if you need
changeable.
a sign here and there, that's okay too, but
Yeah.
not just put signs everywhere. you know?
right. So in this additional research I was doing, while there are all these things you can do to accomplish different goals, whether it's moving people out of parking spaces, keeping that movement going, or raising revenue, the bottom line is that you've got to make your residents happy. You've got to make sure that you're handling, that you're addressing them, because they're going to be the only ones that are going to complain. Your visitors aren't. Your
There's no
visitors-
way to make everybody happy. You
I
know
real,
that.
I realize. So what you guys have already been saying, which is no change, is what I'm leaning towards as well, is considering that we only did it for 2 weeks last year, that there were, it was a very, very bumpy start. It was the first year that we got people signed up for their resident permits, and they have to do it again this year because permits expire, because registrations expire, people change cars, et cetera. It's just the reality is that they have to do it every year. We're already going to be up against frustrated residents trying to get their free parking. And so I think it's better if we treat this as year number 1, collect as much data as we possibly can, and get our residents comfortable and used to spending a whole season doing this, not just 2 weeks, or those that never even did anything last year because they just didn't bother. Getting that going, and then we can start really making changes based on what we need to do, whether it's provide more space for residents to park, or increase the revenue, or get more traffic movement, whatever these things are, then we can do that, but we'll have more data, I think, to do that.
Well, at the last meeting, I wasn't here, but I was watching it. I think that you should at least consider adding more hours of the day when it's busy, when people are going out to dinner. You can't get a parking space down here. And so why not at least just still start at 10, but go to 8 or something like that? So you catch the dinner crowd. So, I mean, why not? You
I
know?
mean, if that's, so we're here to make recommendations to the select board. So if we want to make that recommendation to the select board as a group, we can. They may make that, they may make changes anyways,
Or you may say no.
or they may say no, but that's certainly what we can,
I mean, the stuff's already there. It doesn't add any cost to us except for the person who's, the parking attendant. But I think it would pay for itself in the height of the season.
Well, that's, what option is that if you were going to look at options?
Is that the third page?
Is it? Yeah, option 2.
Because we wanted to be able to pay for 2 people doing enforcement, correct?
Yeah.
And that increase would allow us to pay for that, although it extends the schedule.
But maybe not from 8 to 8, just 10 to 8. Because in the morning, it's really not much of a.
Well,
No, I think you leave the 10 alone because that's when
Yes.
everybody's able to park for free. do
and
all
I
this
was,
stuff.
I was reading that too, is that for locals, you
Yeah.
don't want to mess with the morning.
Right.
It's okay to extend the evening, but not the morning. That's where you're going to get the most
There is
pushback.
parking in the morning. Like anecdotally, like it feels like there are spots in the morning.
Yes.
It's
Yep.
around
Yep.
9,
It's not.
10,
It's
and
not.
they start filling up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they'd still have 2 hours of parking a day that they could use. So they park in the morning, they have until 10, then they still have,
There's still 2 hours left.
they still have 2 hours to park, so they could even use
Yep.
their 2-hour parking for going out to eat or something like that if you did charge them
Yep,
that.
yep.
So
So,
you got the residents covered, I think, in that part.
so maybe we can start drafting what the recommendations would be, just to kind of, so we don't spend 2 hours just hashing out the same, like kind of the first one.
Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry, I wasn't at the last meeting, but when did we go to October 31st? When was that decision made, or
think
how did that
that's-
come about?
The original is to October
It-
15th, and
Right.
that's the recommendation you're making, right?
So partly because last year we didn't start until the 15th and we ended on the 31st. And so there's just sort of an executive decision to say, okay, well, we did that last year, our first year till the 31st. It was busy. There was plenty of traffic and plenty of, use of those kiosks through the 31st
Of October, there was?
of October,
We
yes.
still had people coming in the last week of October
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
And
where do
so-
I park for a full day?
But what we didn't do is we cut back the beginning of it. So instead of May 15th,
May 23rd.
we started late Memorial Day weekend. That Saturday would be the first Saturday, just to kind of, give a little bit on the front end versus the back end. Because the October was just busier than May.
Okay.
So I guess, so then the first recommendation would be to extend, to change the season from what I've got on
May
there, which
23
is,
through October
yep.
31st.
Yeah.
Would it always be May 23, or should it be linked to, was that,
Right.
that's just for this calendar year? Is it like the Monday?
Yeah,
before
true.
Memorial-
The weekend of Memorial. Day.
Memorial Day, Saturday to October 31st.
Friday before Memorial Day?
Okay, yeah.
Saturday?
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I think
Yeah.
that's right.
We change our hours.
Okay,
Friday before
8
Memorial
PM. Yeah, that
Yeah.
Friday is when we go to 8 PM. So,
That's a
okay.
good idea.
Just follow French for on hours.
All right, so Memorial Day Friday to October 31st would be our first recommendation. Second recommendation.
10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Were we Sundays? Was it noon to?
So
Yeah.
Sunday is
Noon
different.
to 8.
So Friday to Saturday would be 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And Sunday would be noon to 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And then the rate is probably the next question, right?
rate would be the next question. Just remember that small changes are going to be,
For first year.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I,
I mean, you want to change you're already lengthening the time, so to change the number, You want to give everybody, you want to give people less things to pick apart. You know what I mean, I think.
They're still gonna pick it apart.
No, but I mean, if you change different components of, too many components, I think it's too much. I don't know.
If the select board was contemplating an increase, what would you recommend?
Main Street,
No, I mean a rate.
Just an overall rate
$3.
increase.
No more than $3 an hour to start out with?
Between $2 and $3, I guess. is-
Yeah.
Well, it's at 2.
Yeah,
So,
So it'd be between
$3.
2 and 3, so
Three.
we recommend between 2 and 3. I mean, that's not fair to them, but
That's, I think we push everything on the select board. Yeah. 2-ish to 3-ish.
yeah. So it should be 2, but no more than 3? for this?
For
yeah,
the first year.
yeah, absolutely. I don't think you should be.
And it's I mean, looking
Big
at your
percentage increase.
sheets, when we
Yeah.
kept the hours on the last page was keeping the same hours, but increasing to equivalent to $4 an hour. That was the biggest impact. So the rate increase seems to have a bigger impact than the hour increase in these sheets.
When you get to, when you start, because I was only using $1
Right.
for
and
those
the-
other ones.
I think the 12 hours a day, the number you have wouldn't actually be accurate because those early hours, we don't actually have full spots
Yep.
as much. And
Yep.
I think these numbers are an underrepresentation anyway, because like any of these, whether it's a high parking area or a lower one, it feels to me like all the spots are filled outside of Camden residents using them for the free 2 hours. It's not like we have empty spots.
Right.
So I think putting these at like a $1 estimate instead of a $2 estimate, these numbers are probably almost doubled in reality.
I'd rather be wrong that way,
Yeah.
personally.
That makes sense. I
Yeah,
think so
Yeah.
too, because if you've got the turnover, you have turnover even doing it during a 2-hour period, folks who stay for 1 hour and then leave.
Right.
we've got a
So-
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to say that,
Yeah.
ATM
Can-
thing,
Hey,
Tyler,
Tyler,
hand
can
him
you
a
give him
mic.
your mic real quick?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
in my life of parking at metered parking spots, almost never have I come across anything that is active after 6, anywhere, like even in New York City, whatever. And if you're interested in it being less confusing to people, I think that's a cutoff point that is pretty standardized all over the place. So just keep that in mind.
Those usually do start earlier, right? They'd
Okay,
be
Bar
like-
Harbor is a real exception, but going from no parking meters to parking meters, and going to an exceptional ending time. I'm just pointing it out.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
you
have
might get a
question
little.
for you, though. So like if you're in New York, is it like 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.? It starts early, right? So if we're trying to get a full day and would it be better for the town to have it start earlier and end at 6 or what time, 8 to 6? Well, I don't know, whatever time you think it starts.
Yeah, but no, I'm just saying, the starting point isn't a big issue, but the ending point is a big issue. And also, just around here, the 2-hour limits for prime spots have always, that limit ended at 6. So that's in everybody's mind if they're pulling into a parking space. Just saying, you're creating a kind of exception. And if you're trying to avoid confused people, that's something to consider.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it's a showstopper, I'm just saying.
I think
I'm just surprised at how easy you're just sort of waltzing into taking over the 6 to 8 p.m. spot. I would find that a little perplexing.
If you want to believe Google, this is what it says. It says the standard time for parking meter enforcement in many U.S. cities is 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Saturday. However, operating hours vary, with many downtown areas enforcing meters from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Yeah, I was in Portland with my daughter and not far from where she lives in Portland, it ended at 6, but then we decided to drive closer to where we were going to a restaurant and it was 8 p.m. So it's not unusual.
I think an 8 p.m. is probably trying to capture that person who's going to dinner at 6.
It also says
Because if
evening and
you
nights.
end at 6, then basically you don't have to pay out. The last person who's going to pay is really 4 to get that 2 hours to keep you to 6.
Or if I pull in at 5 and it only ends at 6, I'm paying for an hour.
Right,
And I'm there probably until 8.
right.
Yeah, it
And
says
I'm not
here
gonna
six,
turn over,
6
I'm
or
gonna-
8. That's usually
Right.
what many cities
So you
use.
lose that ability for people to come in and have places to park, after 7 for a 7 o'clock dinner.
Yeah.
Because people are potentially staying there longer. That's how I see it. That's how I would do it.
Susan?
Thank you. I would just say anecdotally, tough word, maintaining the 10 o'clock start time in the morning. I think that's when most residents pop into town and do their thing, and then they get their additional 2 hours. I think we're going to get the most pushback if we take away those 2 hours in the morning, and that the evening time, I appreciate your observation about that. I'm sort of agnostic about that, but it's probably less Camden resident impact from going from 6 to 8 than it would be to remove those morning hours, for
I
sure.
think that's for sure.
And I think sort of where I'm leaning towards is less resident impact on all of these things is what I'm trying to sort of, especially for this first year while we're still, kind of getting everyone used to it locally.
I think part of the issue, that if I was going to pick some problem with changing the time frame later is going to be the employees working at the restaurants. That seems to be the bigger issue because they're having to park somewhere because they're working at the restaurant. The restaurant's the people you're trying to capture.
But they would have arrived before 6 PM and they would need.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just thinking, them in that regard, where are they gonna park? Because they're
I'm not sure.
a large percentage of the people that are unhappy with this
Right.
this change.
And like
But
Long
that's-
Grain, right there, they have their lunch hours and then they have their dinner hours and then their staff come back
Yeah.
about 4
Of
o'clock.
course, yeah.
I'm just bringing that part up because that tends to be the thing that people get pretty upset about.
But that's part of the problem we're trying to
is,
fix.
it is the problem,
Employees
yeah.
filling all the spots that we
Right.
want people to,
But
customers
it
to
gets a little
use.
more complicated at night because then they're saying they gotta walk it in the dark to the parking, there's
Yeah.
that piece of it, so. just
Well,
trying
and I think that's where we can also, start as we're gathering, after we get some more data about where people are parking and the times that,
Yeah.
if we can try to capture some of that, that's where you can start playing around with having zone A, a zone B, and a zone C. And so you give people options of where to park. And so, your prime spot to be your zone A, and then maybe your zone C is more geared towards employees. And
Right.
that's where you can have certain hours. And the locals are going to pay attention to those hours. So it's not going to be so confusing because they're going to be looking for that option to go there for my evening shift, just sort of some of the things we could kind of think about going forward. Okay, so we've got a season, an hour, and a rate. I think one thing that we should also consider, we originally had reduced the projected, the recommended map of where paid parking is going to be. We reduced it. Do we recommend that it stays the same right now or extend or
I think
any
it's-
change to
I think
that?
it should stay the same. If we extended it, we'd have to buy more meters also. It'd be like a infrastructure addition. And right now, it feels like it is focused where people park most often, where we want the turnover.
And my guess is if we decide to extend it, you wouldn't buy meters to support that based on the fact that more than 50% are already using the
Yeah,
QR. I
yeah,
mean,
maybe.
I could see a time where
The meters go away.
meters all go away anyway.
But I think that should be something to seriously consider after this year.
Agree. Yes.
I think we should look for more free parking if we can.
Okay,
So we can find other locations for people to park free.
Honestly, long-term free parking on for restaurant staff, if you're working at the waterfront,
Yeah.
you've got to get all the way over to back behind.
We need to
No,
find.
they have their own parking.
Waterfront, they have their own
Waterfront has employee parking.
Where's
It's behind
Oh,
Franny's.
Oh, yeah. Okay, if you say you had a gallery.
Okay.
Right across the street from the
Franny
waterfront.
doesn't
There's nowhere to park without being over on the other side
Yeah,
of town.
so I mean, look for maybe some more kind of like strategic locations.
One of our trustees goes to Breckenridge, and he said that their paid parking program paid for an underground parking facility to be built under like a hill. Pretty amazing. I don't know that we're making that kind of revenue, but
Not yet.
not yet. But
Yeah,
I
but
think
it's-
Could be part of
there's the
long
potential
term,
to maybe buy up a lot that someone has.
Or add
Make
a,
sweet
or add a
offer.
level to the, behind the Knox Mill. I
Right.
mean, you know,
Or the police.
Lots.
Or at a level
Or-
to the,
yeah.
to the
Right.
public safety law.
Does the yacht club use that at night?
Yes,
Yep.
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of evening activities. Yeah, and they have
Yeah.
people parking overnight going on the boat. They're very strict about it.
And they've got a lease agreement with us. that gives
Right,
them-
I was just thinking if they weren't using that space, that'd be.
yeah, and I think the other thing we have to, everybody has to consider is the residents, you know, we don't want to push, the danger is pushing cars out
I'm
into
not saying
these.
pushing them further into the
I
neighborhood.
realize.
I'm just saying like, we should just like, I know we looked at places, but we got to continually like try to find or make arrangements with people that are parking
Yep.
already.
Yep.
That was one of the recommendations of his study there, that the town would enter into maybe some agreements with people that own private property to like, so theoretically you run 1 year like this with minor changes, gather the data, and then if money becomes, you know, if we make enough money, we could use that money to invest in maybe an agreement with somebody that has a parking lot
Mhm.
or something like that.
Yeah, like we talked about, the Congregational Church has a
Yeah.
huge lot that's
Right.
used primarily one day a week.
Right.
Right.
But as the program develops and is able to bank some money, so to speak, then you can make some investment in kind of some of these other things. We got to get this part kind of going, I think, first.
Yeah.
But keep that search going, like looking
Yep.
for spots.
I know that we've all heard, I know I have quite a bit, people asking for certain kinds of permits, employee permits, you know, we've got the resident permit, well, for the 2 hours of free parking for residents. But lots of different, you know, can you accommodate my kind of a permit? Do we have any kind of recommendation for additional permitting?
I think the only permits that are needed is, and we did this in Bangor when I was there, was contractor permits. And I know we handle like using the right of way for in a certain way, but I think we ought to figure
Oh,
out.
we do it with spaces too.
They already-
I know, but we ought to make sure we figure out that, I think, better, so that everyone is getting them. A contractor that might be working inside a building, not taking up, you know, they're not doing a project on the facade of a building, or they're not need to work out of the truck necessarily, like right there,
Mhm.
but the contractor's there on the property working upstairs, like a plumber or something. They need to be close. Sometimes they need to be close to their vehicles,
Mhm.
and we want to make sure they're paying for them, right? But we also don't, I don't think, want to have them have to move their car every 2 hours.
Is
A
there,
contractor working
Right.
on
Yeah, but that's,
improving real
but that's
estate.
what they're doing on their contractor permits. They're filling the permit out for the length of time they want, and they're paying for it by the day.
Right, so does the contractor, I'm not sure how many, and does
Oh.
the contractor actually get a permit from us that they put in their windshield or on their dash so that Spencer sees it?
I don't think that's what we're doing.
You should do
No.
something like that.
is there a way to know that's being used when they're doing contractor work though, and not like
Well, they
going out to
reserve the
lunch?
spaces and then
Yeah, but if
you
you-
guys sign off on it.
But he's talking about if you just had a permit, you could just like
Well, it-
have on hand. Like
Oh,
if you get a plumber gets called, you can just show up and stick it on his dash.
Right.
So he comes in, he says, I need 3 spaces in front of this house to do this work. We sign up, then we give
Well,
them
first
3.
you
We
say
give
you
them,
get 1 space, you don't get 3 spaces.
well, you can reserve as many as you want, but you gotta pay for each one.
And the rate.
So let's say you do
have-
1, you give them 1 window sticker, or you give them 3 and they get 3. That just helps Spencer with.
But
knowing who
I
did
would
it.
assume they have a date, like when are you gonna be working
They
on
do.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
We-
they can't just go.
We do that already. There is a permit for contractors.
There
I've
is,
got a
but there's
painter
no
that comes in.
decal or anything.
There's no like parking permit that gets on their dash so that when Spencer walks by, he knows that you might see PD signs off on these license agreements that we have to use the right of way, but I think it's a little different than
Just a
those
check and
contractors that
balance,
are doing work in a building. I think there's a difference, and there's like I think it's just different.
So we want it to be visible. We want to make sure that that the permit is a visible
Yeah.
permit, that we know that people have
And it's
done what they need to
specifically
do.
just for using the space, not like, there's a lot of contractors that don't need to close off the sidewalk, they're not doing a sewer line project, or they're
Right.
not doing infrastructure work in our right of way. They're just needing the parking space.
No,
to work.
there is that. They are doing that.
Yeah.
But there's no decal. That would help it.
I think so.
We run across it all the time, and we take their word for it, right? They're like, well, I have a permit, we're like, okay. I mean,
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to bring up 39 Main Street, they got their project done and it's great, but I don't know how long that permit was, that right-of-way permit was. It seemed like all summer for like 3 spaces, and they were out there with some days there was a chair, some days there was.
She paid for 3 spaces for quite a while.
Okay, good.
But yeah, we can work on a program that gets,
But
Visible,
I agree, like maybe we just make like a
Just a placard.
laminated thing for the window that has their, you can put a sharp.
Goes on their dashboard, how we did it in Bangor. we're
Dry erase
great
marker,
for
permit
decades.
number.
I'm sure they're still doing it. You just come in, you get a contractor parking permit. There's a log book, and they each get a number, and it goes.
Are you even on that sign off thing? I think it's
No, we
police,
see
fire, and
We see
public
that,
works, right?
no.
what about these special permit requests that I know that the select board's gonna, they're gonna receive some of those. Do we have a recommendation as a group?
Like what kind
Like,
of?
for instance-
Well, employee permits,
Or people who happen to live in the shoulder areas like
Yeah.
Mountain Street.
Yeah.
Where
There's
parking
free
is
parking
going
behind Knox
from
Mill.
no limit, no posted time limit to 2 hours, and no other options for the people who actually live there. And
Well-
who have visitors coming, who have,
But they have driveways.
And you talk about the contractors, so if I have a contractor comes to my house, has to be there more than 2 hours, I'm the one that has to pay for the permit. Contractor's gonna pay for it, but I'm ultimately the one that pays for it, which today I don't. I can have a contractor come to my house, we had painters last year.
Are you in the parking area in the
No,
downtown?
I'm on Mountain Street.
Right?
They extended this parking.
They extended restricted parking into Mountain Street, which was not there before.
It was all day and now it's 2 hours free.
Up to, not all
What
the way
street
up
does
to
it
Cross Street.
Up to Cross.
yeah.
Which I think's fair, and I mean, I don't live there, but I think I think public.
Fair in what way?
It's,
Well, I
It's where a
think
lot of people
the
park.
roads, the public infrastructure are everybody's road, right? It's not the person that owns that property. It's not their parking space in front of it. I'm not trying to sound mean or anything. It's just, that's a public resource. It's a public asset that everyone pays for. The town maintains it using tax dollars. And, if I want to park on Cross Street, or I want to park in front of someone's house and just walk into town, I have the right to do that in a public right of way, right?
Right, but I'm not asking to park in front of my house. I'm not asking to park on my street.
Yeah.
Well, if
We're
you-
kind of halfway between Route 1 and Cross Street.
Right, yeah.
So, I think that was what came up last year. I mean, we've asked for this, and one is I made the mistake of saying unlimited, and understand I can't park more than 24 hours. So I agree with that. And I kind of used in front of my house, and that's wrong. I'm not asking that the spot in front of my house, there's 2 of them there, that those are my spots. I'm asking, David lives next door to me. If visitors or whoever is parked in front of my house, I understand that I can't boot them out, but I should be able to park, to the neighbors or the neighbor.
More than 2 hours, is that what you're saying?
More than 2 hours,
Yeah.
right?
So I mean, what would you think is a solution, I guess?
Well, it's the Bar Harbor solution. Bar Harbor issued
Yeah.
Permits to residents that they can park into the free zones. So the Bar Harbor restriction goes all the way up into the neighborhoods. That's what you've done here. You've pushed it up into the neighborhoods, into the residential neighborhoods. And Bar Harbor gave residents the ability to, the 2-hour parking downtown does me no good at all, because I never park downtown.
We walk. We walk, and we have visitors who come and they park in our driveway or they park on the street, because Robert and I both, we have very narrow driveways, very short driveways. There's there's a huge ledge underneath my driveway. It's like up 3 feet from his driveway. There's no room to put cars side by side. So you have people come to visit, elderly people. They have to drive here too. There's no bus service, no reasonable bus service that will get you in Camden. We used to do this back in the early 2000s. You had 2 buses a day. We had people come and we'd go pick them up at the Maritime Farms and they would just walk around. But now you really do have to have a car. They don't have, Concord doesn't do 2 a day.
I mean, for those,
So they park in front of our house and they stay with us for a week or so and they walk into town. You don't have this deal of, you gotta know where the keys are because you're all parked sequentially in your very narrow driveway. You can have a reasonable visit with people where you're not the thing that isn't in your mind every moment is, where are the keys to that car? How are we going to do this? And then having to pull out into traffic to get the car that's in front out and all of that. It's a nightmare.
I guess
And
I
that's
still
not even
don't,
getting into the contractor type of people.
I mean, I think
They can't book a time. So if you got somebody coming to trim trees and it's a windy day, he calls and says, I can't come today, it's too windy. We're going to push it back. And you don't know what time it's going to be. What we do now is we pull our car out into the street, leave our driveway free for the contractor to come in. And it works out.
but what was your solution, I guess? I still don't understand the
So the
solution.
Bar Harbor solution is give
No, what was your
People who
solution?
live, the people who live there, freedom from the 3-hour limit.
So where do you draw the line for that,
Right.
though? That's the hard part.
People who live there.
people have.
So everybody that lives in town would get like a thing?
Well, with 12 Mountain Street gets permission to park in that stretch.
But what about the people that live on Main Street that live there? I mean, they're gonna say, well, you gave the one on Mountain Street one, I want one. You know, that's where you got kind of,
Can I give you another?
Okay, hey, guys. So-
No, I'm just-
Talking about grandfathering in people who have been living there for 20 years, have developed a way of living that actually works. There haven't been big problems with parking there. Some people have been able to widen their driveways and all of that, but some people can't.
Okay.
Another
So, Barb.
solution would be if you have company coming to stay for a week and you want them to be able to come and go from their car, that you take one of your cars and put it behind Knox Mill for the week and let them take your spot.
Well, first of all,
I just did that. I was just visiting my son and that's exactly what we had to do.
So guys,
Can't do it for
so
24
let's
hours,
do this.
in the Knox Mill you can.
Sure.
We totally know, I mean, I appreciate exactly what you guys are saying. As a work,
If you're talking about not.
as a working group, do we have a recommendation for resident permits, on Mountain Street?
For free?
Because that's the only one that we've been asked about is Mountain Street. So I just want to,
So it sounds like this issue came up because the 2-hour parking got pushed up further than it was before,
yes.
right?
But it shouldn't be free.
Yeah.
That's not the point, because that's where people, if they weren't parked there, then tourists would be parked.
well, and I have seen plenty of cars parked throughout the day up on Mountain Street
It's not
on
that
that
far
corner
from the
because you've got the
downtown.
funeral home right there. You had the High Mountain Hall had events, and so people parked there.
Yeah.
So that stretch of Mountain Street is very busy with parking, people that want to use that for parking.
Well, it's,
So as a group, do we have a recommendation that we could give to the select board? Or if we don't, we can ask the select board to handle that one. But I
I think you
would
run
like to be
into
able to give a
situations like
recommendation.
all these buildings downtown that may have apartments above, right? Some of these people may have cars, they may not, but I guarantee you they have family and friends that come from out of town and visit, and they're coming to a downtown. They know that they definitely can't park in front of their building on Main Street, and they know they have to figure out where they're going to park, and they may end up parking on, Pearl Street overnight, or they may be parking at Knox Mill overnight. That's where they end up having to park. So I think
We have the
That's
same
the
issue on
reality.
Chestnut Street
Right.
too.
But the difference
Has-
is, if I have an apartment downtown, I'm in a business district, a place that's zoned by business. We live in a place that's zoned residence.
What is that zone?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
That's a totally
Isn't that-
different-
is there a
Isn't that
zoning, is there a
multi-
zoning maybe thing that we could?
I think you'd
I
be
too.
surprised when you look at our zoning code, how much commercial business is actually allowed to happen in other zones. Like
Yeah.
when we talk about our residential zones,
Right.
we really, outside of like the RU1 and the CR, the more rural areas, we really, you're allowed there's a lot of commercial activity that can happen in the downtown zones.
I mean, but where
And I
he's-
say even
And it
village
does happen
zones,
up there.
Where he's at, is that,
That's village.
so it's not, yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, is there like an overlap of the zoning that could work with that so that we're like,
I'd have to look at the map.
yeah, I mean, that might be one of the things you could do. You could look at how the zoning is and maybe come up with something like that. I mean, I'm not saying that's a solution, but
This boundary and why it got expanded was we were looking at a certain walkable distance time frame from the downtown, I think.
That's
is
what-
we were looking.
that's what John
And
Beck
that's-
said.
And that's why it got
Yeah.
expanded a little bit
Right.
further.
right.
So
What are the other streets that would be, like, there's Chestnut would be comparable? Are there other
Chestnut's
streets
another
that
one that
are?
we're getting the same kind of
So
feedback.
Right,
Chestnut-
so
Chestnut's another
are
one.
they-
Yeah.
Are there any others or is it just those two?
But that's why, it's because it wasn't there
Can't
before and
remember
now it's a
from the
little
map.
further. That's why they're.
Not
saying
Washington
something.
Street because the mill has the parking behind their building and the apartments don't start until a little higher up,
Okay.
residents.
Let's go up mechanic a little bit, past free.
Mechanic.
Really
got-
only that one house on the
Mechanic
corner of
kinda
Free.
got Stretched a little bit too, I think.
Yeah.
I think we stretched Washington a little bit, didn't we?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Mechanic goes up to Free Street, yeah. And so
But
you're really only encompassing that one house.
Washington, we have people parking further up on Washington now than they did.
In front of the mill, yeah.
I
On
think
that
the
side.
challenge that is more for the select board than for us to figure out is that when, like, we've already had issues with some of these streets where people do block parking spots to keep tourists and
Yeah.
workers from parking in their neighborhoods. And so there's a frustration with that kind of thing happening. And so like, the idea is to open up these spots for people to use. And I realize that it does change, like that you guys are on a block that has changed the nature of like that it wasn't 2 hour. It was like workers used to park there because you could leave it there all day.
Up
One
Chestnut
park there all
Street
day.
is,
And yeah, both Chestnut and up on Mountain.
Yeah.
And and it's a tricky one. And I don't think it's really I mean, I don't feel comfortable making a recommendation.
okay. And that's,
But you felt comfortable making a recommendation to put restrictions in front of my house.
I don't know that I was
I don't
part of
think-
that.
I don't think
I
we
didn't
did
make
that,
any
yeah.
I'm just here as a community member, that I have as much power here as you do. And nothing I say here actually holds any weight.
So I guess so who do you expect is gonna, so I guess I want to kind of contradict what you said about Mountain Street is busy for certain times. If there's a wake, if there's something going on at Bay Chambers, or it's, a special weekend downtown like the Arts Festival or something like that. Otherwise, there is nobody parking beyond, there might be 6 or 7 cars that are workers that are parked at the very low. But beyond that, there's nobody that parks there today. And so I know
That's not
Allison
true.
brought up, that residents were going to get a little pissed off if they drive into town and there's all these parking spots and they have to pay for it. I'm going to get pissed off if I drive into my driveway and there's not a car in sight anywhere, but yet I can't park on the street.
I mean, one of the options that is available is, along with dynamic pricing and things like that, is to charge higher prices or to charge for parking during event weekends too. I mean, you can start doing that, but then it becomes very tedious and confusing.
Is there a time that works? Like, is there a time that you're specifically?
I don't want I don't want to have the 2-hour restriction placed on me, on my street.
If we
Anywhere
have
in Washington, anywhere in Mountain?
but if
Anywhere on Mountain Street?
What about,
Well, in front of his
You don't want-
house.
And you said you don't want
Well,
2-hour
he
restriction
wants-
anywhere on Mountain Street?
for me, as a resident?
He wants a permit.
All
His
the way
house.
down to the corner?
Well, right now, previously, there was a 2-hour restriction on that.
No, it was not. a
Yes, it
2-hour
was.
restriction.
Up until what, McGonagall?
No, There is no restriction.
No
on
restriction on Mountain Street at all.
There wasn't
Okay.
before.
No, it was
And
not.
so you had what I saw every day. And so I drive north when I leave town. I drive north. And so I don't mess with the intersection, right? I try to keep that open. So I come up, I go through the neighborhood and I come up to 50. That run of parking for years, you had the same cars parking in that run of parking.
It's
along
like Upper
Mountain Street.
Chestnut. It's
It's
utilized by
all-
workers.
It's all downtown employees.
At the lower end of Mountain Street.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, eight to 10 cars were parking there
Yep.
every day, all day long.
Yeah.
So I
So we
think
were giving employees free, easy parking to the downtown with close proximity to the downtown.
Why do you say-
for all day?
Okay, it was free, but there was no restrictions on those spots.
Well, I know, but transitioning to now. I
So,
think that was
but
the
now,
reason.
so who do you expect is gonna park on Mountain Street now? You're
Employee,
you're kicking employees out. And so are you expecting visitors are gonna park there? And so my point is.
Very close to downtown.
Yeah, but so you're gonna restrict me as a resident to accommodate the visitor.
But you could move a car so they have to park the driveway.
I think in terms
we're
of
not
our
really
recommendations,
restricting you
'cause we're just trying to send this to the select board because like we're not going to solve, it's not our decision, but I would say when the select board's thinking about this, if they decide to give a permit, I think they should, my worry would be if you can park in front of your house anywhere on Mountain Street with a permit all day, like there's no restrictions, then you're just you could just leave your car there. And like the same on Chestnut, people just move their cars out there to keep. Right. So there needs to be some kind of limit on the permit.
But that's also the intent of what we're doing. We're trying to keep people out of the core. And I guess for me, the question is, does that core, should it extend up to Cross Street or should it be back down where McGonagall is?
Or
That would be my only question, would be whether we've pushed that up too far. Did you say that goes all the way up to Cross Street?
It does.
I have-
It does.
Yep. But another idea is you could have a permit for, like, you give to contractors, people could buy a permit to have for guests.
that is, yeah, I mean, there is a resident permit or a, yeah.
they can
there is.
But why
That they-
should I pay extra taxes?
It's
because-
not, you don't own the property, you don't own the street in front of you. You don't own it.
I happen to live on that street.
I know, but that's nice for you, but you don't own that space. It's part of,
I understand that you have the right to do this. It doesn't mean it's the right thing for you to do. I mean, so why, if I live up Cross Street, I live one house up from Cross Street, I wouldn't
Okay.
be taxed to park in front of my house.
So, I mean, we're trying to work through something that will work for you and like, and I know that you're kind of frustrated with it, but we'll try to, I mean, I'm trying to think as many things as I can
I
right now.
mean,
to help you.
one proposal I had was if you're worried about me going and parking other places, you could put some number like, it's a resident permit for a car that's resident at 14 Mountain Street. It's got to be within 200 feet of that residence, if you want to say something like that.
I think we need to bookmark it because I don't know that I'm comfortable making a
Yeah.
recommendation. Colin's
Not for one
comfortable.
person.
I don't, yeah, it's,
No.
if there were 15 people here from multiple streets throughout the area just off the downtown area, I would maybe feel comfortable making a decision.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm not ready to do that.
Parking up Chestnut too.
Yeah.
A fair
Well,
amount.
Yeah.
Well, Chestnut was interesting because if you read the ordinance, there was parking there.
Mhm.
What's happened over time is you get different people living in different places and they get influence over the police chief or someone who was here before. And they got a sign put in front of their house. So then there was all these signs put in different locations, but they didn't jive with the ordinance. So we basically just
And-
removed those signs.
And then residents started painting curbs.
And then they started painting things and it was. all
Yellow to keep
has
people
be
from-
People that were angry about people parking in front of their house.
which is comes as part of the territory if you buy a house near town.
Right.
So like yours is new, but Chestnuts is the same, is exactly.
Right,
the
that's
same
what I was
thing.
trying to get at.
So
Chestnut.
they, so
dealing
like,
with this
so
for a
you
while.
had, the lady that was putting the cones out and then the people that were painting the curbs.
Right, but you're punishing me for something.
No, I'm just saying, we're just trying to.
It's been
understand
going
the
on for a
evolution.
while.
But Chestnut's got,
Yeah.
nobody's here for
Again, I
Chestnut,
think
but
we
they've
need
got
to
the same
bookmark
idea.
it.
Huh?
I think we need to bookmark
Yeah.
this individual
And then
issue
press it,
and
press
move
it.
on with the
Okay.
working group's
Okay.
tasks.
Do we have are there any other potential adjustments, changes to the parameters? I mean, I think we've pretty much covered the,
Just take it. So when you
Okay,
say bookmark,
no.
what do you mean? You want to,
We are not going to make a
We're
decision
not
about it.
addressing this.
so you guys are passing the buck to the select board?
Yes, because they make the decision.
Okay.
And we can't come up with an answer.
Or we as a working group will need to work on it at a later time.
Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah.
Maybe we look at it
I know.
a little bit more broader and then come up with a recommendation.
Because maybe ultimately there are other residence streets, neighboring streets that are being affected, you know, in a proportion that is, you know, problematic, and we want to address that.
Too is I had, I know you want to bookmark it, but I just want to say.
That's okay.
I think like maybe looking at maybe changing like the amount of hours that someone can park there
Mhm.
so that it does more accommodate the people working.
Mhm.
Because that's really what we're
And-
doing, right? We're trying to give them a place to park, and if they can only park for
Free
2
2 hour
hours.
all the way to High Street.
Right, but my point is that like maybe
Go to 3,
that
4
needs
hour?
to be changed to a longer time frame.
Right,
To
so.
accommodate him, but would also accommodate someone parking there if they were working.
Right, so understanding the, where people are parking and that kind of thing, by creating more zones for us to be able to collect data, then we can then assign zones. We could make an A, B, and C zone, and a C zone could not only be a lower rate, but it could be a longer time, or one or the other.
Something like that. Because
Exactly.
really, if you have to think about what we're trying to do, these spaces we're pushing, we're kind of moving out is for the people who are working, right? Because they have to park somewhere.
Yeah.
Within reason, because not everybody's gonna park at the Knox Mill. So maybe having a longer time frame on certain zones that get a little bit further out of the downtown area, the blue zones, like so to
Mhm.
speak, you know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
the white zones or whatever. I just think that looking at that might be a solution.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I know that's not 100% what you want, but that gives you closer to it, I think, right?
Do you have something to share?
I have to go pick up my granddaughter, so I've got to leave. I've got a 3-year-old waiting for me. I would just urge this group to deliver your best idea. If we're going to pause on this particular change to the map.
Yep.
Please, oh, please, oh, please, bring us a recommendation. Don't say to the select board, how are we going to handle Mountain Street?
Right, okay.
Because that's a non-starter. It will just be really a difficult discussion. So you all have been so focused, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. So I would, if you want to kick this down the road to the next meeting, and I appreciate your concerns, bring us a recommendation.
Why don't we look at the zones?
The zones.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Tyler. I mean, I think we I don't think we table it. We continue it to another discussion where we can actually have a conversation about this item.
And I need to look at it.
Yeah.
You guys just want no time limits at all, is that what you?
Well, you just look at the practicality of living there.
Yeah, I'm
They
just
want no
asking
time
what
limits.
is-
So,
you want-
so if we could.
Like you said, 4
I would
hours.
say
what-
bottom line, the bottom line would be, give us the chance to have a permit, a placard in our window that allows us to.
I mean, that's an option.
That's 6 hours.
It's just
Free.
infeasible.
We could do it for
to
Chestnut
park
too,
on
and we could do it
Not
for
having
outer Bayview Street for that
I think
matter.
we should extend the
For a
blues
portion.
into Cross Street and
All for this
elsewhere.
parking plan. I mean,
Okay, so,
The only thing I would say is, I live on C Street. At one point, I could park in front of my house, and the town just put no parking signs. So I went to a point where I had no available street parking at all. And
Narrow.
it was too narrow. Yep.
It's on your side.
And so I think while it was a nice amenity to have with my house, I didn't own that, just like residents on Mountain Street don't own the parking space.
Yes,
It's a
that's
nice amenity that exists right now. And I think you're dealing with backlash if that amenity goes away or it gets modified. And I'm just saying it's not anything new because that happened to my house and everyone on C Street on that side. And it's probably not the only street where that's occurred.
That was only, you could walk, you could park on the other side of the street?
No, I can't park on either side.
Where he lives, the road doesn't have room to have.
They put no parking signs both
Oh,
sides.
because of the road's too narrow.
Yes, but up until a couple years ago, you could.
Okay, so I'll grant you that, that's a safety issue, right?
Either way, is the town taking, it's the town.
It's
taking-
town property.
No, but the reason, I agree that the reason for doing that
Okay.
was a safety reason,
Okay.
whereas
Okay,
on Mount
this
Street
is-
is not a safety
What's the other
issue.
thing we had to talk about?
So let's do it, let's address Susan's request, which is provide them with some,
Next meeting.
at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Well, can we, I
just want
okay,
No,
well, hold
yeah,
on, give me 1 second. Okay, I think to try to meet in the middle somewhere, I personally kind of agree with Tyler, but I don't feel comfortable recommending to the select board that you guys don't have any, that you guys have the limited parking at the 2-hour rate. So if we were try to meet in the middle, to have like you keep mentioning someone coming to visit and like having a meal with you or whatever, if it went to 4 hours instead of 2 hours in these sort of residential neighborhoods like Chestnut Mountain and is out, how far?
I
Bayview?
thought about Outer Bayview because there are a number of businesses down that area, like professional businesses, that it's a long walk to ask them to come up to the public landing, I mean, to the Knox Mill parking lot. And so by making a few of those spaces available for, longer
someone's, like,
time.
coming to work or have a meeting.
or they've got a meeting out.
I think really it's primarily the residential spaces that matter more, but I'm
Yeah.
open to whatever. But I think spots like the neighborhoods, it doesn't solve your problem entirely, but it's, I think, I would think better than what you've got now. And it seems like, it seems like a decent adjustment to try to take care of, like, if you have a worker coming to the house, like there, you can kind of work around that more.
So to extend the free,
Yeah.
extend the free parking in certain areas to 4 hours.
In the residential, yeah.
Okay.
And we'll look at the map.
I think you gotta look at the map.
We gotta look at the map
Those
and say,
handful of
yeah.
spaces right up along Route 1 on where 52 comes in. I mean, that's very close to the library. It's very close to the downtown.
In Bay Chamber, it's always full now because of Bay Chamber.
Free parking for 4 hours?
Yeah, and you've got Bay Chamber.
Close
Across the
to-
street from the library.
Yeah.
Across
Right,
the,
it's across the
the,
street.
yeah.
Very close.
I do
Okay, I mean,
think
that would be-
Is
our-
a problem for you?
I think our researchers would be very appreciative because
Of a 4 hour.
they would.
I think the 4 hour accommodates both a little bit, not so much the homeowner as much as the homeowner wants, but it also accommodates, like you said, the worker too, gives them 4 hours at least.
The challenge is though, then you've got someone who's looking for a 4-hour spot. They're going to park there. That means more people parking in those spots, right? So it's increasing the traffic to those
It could
spots.
draw more people. in,
Right.
yeah, because you can park there longer. That's the
The downside, yeah.
could be.
Well, can I just,
But we could make it a zone that, I don't know, maybe we can try to figure out a way to be able to monitor it and get some,
I
collect
think
some
you guys
information.
do want to talk about it more, and I'm grateful for that, really grateful.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
figure something out.
When this whole plan was originally publicized, there was a kind of flyer that was put in the Penn Bay pilot, that outlaid all the proposals, the initial proposals. And that included that Mountain Street would have exemptions for residents. I
don't
assumed
remember
it
that.
meant the residents of Mountain Street, because it was.
Oh,
Are you talking
Yeah.
about this flyer?
Yeah.
It
I
doesn't
guess
say
so.
anything
I
about
guess
Mountain
so.
Street.
It was in the article.
He's
That
talking
flyer
about
was in the article,
residential
and then,
benefits.
and there was also, I could find the article. So, and I thought, okay, it's not a lot of people.
Right.
Number of the people there have double wide driveways. They don't park in the street anyway. And so, but it does affect some of the people there who, some houses don't even have a driveway on the street. Their driveway is around the corner, up the back, it's very small. And so I thought this wasn't a problem, and I didn't see any publicity that said this wasn't part of the consideration. So that may affect why you don't have more people concerned about it, because they may, I mean, I remember people say, well, what about this? And I say, it's okay. They've got it figured out. They know who they've got to accommodate. So, it really is going to completely turn like our entire summer lives upside down.
Mhm.
We have people who come to clean the house. They're there for 3, sometimes 4 hours. We have people come to, do carpentry work, or lawn work, trim the trees or whatever. And you never know when they're going to come because
Okay.
their schedules change and everything. So what we do now is we pull out of the driveway, we pull onto the street, and our driveway is there. If it's heavy
Get that?
parking time, we handle it. And I'd say there are half a dozen cars in that stretch that you're speaking about practically, not theoretically.
Okay, so, take all that into consideration, and next meeting in 2 weeks,
When does our recommendation go to the select?
whenever we're ready. I mean, if you guys want to continue this discussion
This is
about Mountain Street, unless you want to make the recommendation, the increase to 4 hours, which is what I've written down.
Let's work on it next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a meeting next Thursday, or do you want to wait two weeks?
2 weeks is fine.
Okay.
I have one other question.
Yeah.
And it's a little open-ended, and it's just like an objective for this group, as far as if the intent of this was to increase business as opposed to being a revenue stream or to hire more people to check cars. How do we measure that? And how do we figure out whether we're successful?
John Burks talked about that, and I think that's,
It's tricky.
that's a hard one.
Well-
because you got the economy and you got all kinds of.
A lot of variables, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's a fair question if it's to increase business. It's to increase spaces for customers to come in. Whether or not they buy something, like I have people come in the gallery all day and not buy anything. It's
Right.
really rare, but like for them to have the opportunity to park, like I think you measure.
But if we
by,
go
are
through
there-
all this-
if I
but if-
drive through town, are there parking spots that I can get? Like when they started charging at the public landing, there were never spots available, and then all of a sudden, middle of July, there'd be 4 spots available every time I went down there, and that was a sign of success to me. So I think the success is there
Seeing spots.
available parking in town?
But I will say that the objective is to increase business. So
Yeah, but
No,
that's up to every business. I mean, that's not. I think it's to increase customer foot traffic.
It's the increased turnover in the downtown area and to limit looping. That was the big main focus of when John Burke was explaining it. It was because and the results of that are increased business, more turnover. That was what he was saying. How he framed it.
Okay.
It wasn't a direct, like, we're doing this just to improve business, but that was the result. And then the Bar Harbor town manager said that too. He said that, after they did a study, they found that they actually had increased traffic and sales in the shop for the shop owners because customers were able to park.
sure. I mean, that would seem to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the ways I think that they can track it is through sales tax revenue. I mean, they can report if,
Right, but there's a
I
lot
know
of-
there's a lot of variables to it, but
I
that's
guess it's just a
one.
question whether we as a group, whether we should, do we feel like we should make an effort to capture any of that or not?
At the library, we could look at our people counter,
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if there was a bump, but it's hard because even if it's a 5% bump, it would be probably in the noise of everything else or
You don't- Yeah, you don't know
10%.
what else,
You would
what's
have
really
like
driving it.
Like a people counter at every door.
It'd be very tricky.
before, And then maybe a people counter after.
Yeah.
something like that.
we can provide that to the group.
I mean, we can certainly look at.
I don't know
ways.
that I'd spend much effort on doing it.
Yeah.
And it would be something that would probably require a lot of effort to try to capture.
Maybe it's
but
more
just a-
anecdotal
Yeah, it's
than-
just a question. So I'd hate to go through a lot of effort and money and end up at the same spot.
I don't think that.
I mean, I think we've seen it though. What you were saying is, you go down to the.
No, I don't think it'll
landing
hurt.
now, And there are parking spaces available every time I've been down there. They're not like a lot of them, but
Yeah.
there's a handful every
And-
time I've been down.
And there's more use of the Knox Mill than there ever has
Right.
been, which is another indicator
Yeah.
that people are doing what we want people to do, which is to use that.
The problem is, and it's unfortunate, but the people working there are parking in the spaces in the downtown, and that was what they found. And they're trying to get those people to park a little further away so the visitors or the people using, go to the shop and stuff, have a parking space. And everybody knew, like, I was down at the public landing and they're, Spencer, and like, they've got a text alert chain and it goes to everybody and then they all shuffle their car
Mhm.
as soon as they hear he's walking around, and it's like a big joke.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, really, let's just call it what it is. We knew this was happening. We tried to address it, it's unpopular, so people don't like it, but it really is meant to help things.
Yep.
And that's the goal.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I saw that, I was just like, this is just crazy. That we've developed, the people have developed a system to circumvent the traffic, the 2-hour parking.
Yeah, and when
And they're
shopping-
hurting their own businesses.
Yeah, it's just, and I know.
Well, and they're generally just the employee. I'm not saying just the employee, but they're the employees. They're not the owner of the business. It's like the employees. And so for them, is it really hurting their business? They're
No.
still making their hourly wage and they're, I mean, I see it where, I don't know, you're still shopping. Right. When you shopped, it was like, nope, you see people come out and see, nope, there's Spencer.
That's what I'm talking
And
about.
then they'd come out and they'd wipe off the chalk as soon as he walked through. And that's what we've been dealing with
Right.
for a long time.
And as a result, I think trying to solve that problem, it's gotten backlash from the residents and all of those people. And then we've tried to pick away at those things
Yeah.
to make those more palatable for the people. But the core reason is employee parking in the locations of the people wanting to use the establishment. That is-
Yeah, I think I'm fine with that as an answer. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so next meeting, March 13th,
What time?
9 o'clock. We'll go back to 9 o'clock.
Works for me.
Okay.
That seems promising. Friday or Thursday?
Oh, it's Friday the
It's
13th?
Thursday.
No, I was thinking Thursday.
Thursday.
March.
Sorry, the 12th, March 12th, Thursday,
What time?
9 a.m.
We have a planning meeting that
Oh.
day for Camden campus.
Oh, you do. That's the same day.
Yeah.
Well, both, there you go. I
Oh,
didn't
shit.
like
It's at
on the same.
9:30. We can be here.
You could do 9:30 if that,
We did
10 o'clock?
10.
10 o'clock?
10 a.m. for everyone
Okay.
that day?
That's
work?
better.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, 10 a.m.
All right, you guys have a good meeting because I won't be here.
Okay.
going, Dave?
I'm going to Florida.
You'll probably have to pay for parking.
I'm not zooming in.
They do Floburg down there. Get your apps
Yeah.
ready.
You know what's fun? This,
It's year round down
I'm not
there
gonna,
too.
someone had this spam thing on the card when I put my card in and I did it
Oh,
and
no.
yeah, it wasn't good.
Mm.
I think they got your information off the
They didn't
grid.
get my information, but it took a lot to get them not to send me spam anymore.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
It was like a spam trap.
Remind me, since we're meeting in 2 weeks, what was gonna be on are we talking about the
Zones.
zones, the outlying neighborhood? That will just be our focus, and then we'll finalize the recommendations to the select board? Okay. All right,
I
yep.
think we should probably pull up John Burke's report where we expanded and how we got to expanding into the neighborhood just through background.
Sure.
And
That'd be great.
zones and just try to figure
Yeah.
out something to help out, people that are struggling with that.
I will also tell you guys that when I'm meeting with on Zoom with the people from Flowbird and Park Loyalty, that I am also working with them on the resident permit process to try to make sure that that is easy.
Because that's the big issue. Is being
It
able to
is.
use your free 2 hours whenever you want without
Right.
going through a lot of.
And
hoops.
And because we were in such a crunch to get, launched last year with installing machines and
Right.
getting everything set up,
Oh, yeah.
they didn't have the time to make it so that you could use the app as a resident. To use your 2 hours, you had to go to a kiosk. So I'm going to be working on making sure that that app is accessible too, because we really want to make it as easy as possible for the residents.
I also want to have some kind of a training session on using, I know that.
You said that last time.
I know.
On using what?
I really would think
That
that-
might be a training session for Dave.
There's a kiosk out front of my
Okay,
desk.
I guess I'm the only one that maybe.
I can walk
not
you through it.
100% proficient. I want to be so good at it that I can explain to people and not be wrong. That's my issue.
And should we also at that meeting just talk about how we're handling or summarizing the contractor permits and how those are playing out?
Yeah.
I think that's something we should,
Yeah.
and maybe it's something that we can do in the system too with an app, a contractor permit, I don't know. But it's just,
Yes, we can create different
Yes.
kinds of permits easy enough if we want to use
Yeah.
it, if you want to do it that way, which would make it easier for Spencer to be able to track people because then they would, because we
Oh,
could give them
it's an
a,
awkward thing, if I'm a contractor, if I'm a plumber, and I say, I got to do a plumbing job, downtown at 39 Main Street. And I have to actually go to Public Works to get a right-of-way permit
maybe
just to
you-
do a parking space.
Maybe you give them when you give them a permit, you know what I mean? You give them
Yeah,
a
I mean,
plumbing
the-
permit,
we never know when they're gonna do the job, right? So they get the permit sometimes a month ahead of time, and they're gonna come in and do the job when they have time. So I just think, rather than having, when we're just talking about a parking space and not having to shut down, pedestrian access or doing work in the right of way, when it's just a parking space, right? It's rather, if I have to send a plumber up to Public Works and the PD, and we have to have this crazy, process where they got to get reviewed by you, reviewed by PD, reviewed by Janice and Audrey need to approve it, just to use a parking space, not changing the right of way or doing work in the right
But you
of way.
think about the people that take advantage of that, right? Like, look at Bayview Street, right? Where the people are parked all up and down Bayview. They've been there for 4 years, 7 years. Okay, I mean, that's the extreme. So
Are you asking them for a permit, not for like a specific instance, but like a plumber's permit?
No, it's for a specific job.
Okay.
Like if I'm working at 39 Main.
So it still would be a dated thing.
It's a dated thing.
Yeah.
just, they can't give you a time frame when they're gonna work in a location.
Well,
I
we
mean,
also have the
it's-
15-minute spots out here, right? So they can,
It's not long enough.
it's not long enough to go.
So we-
No, I just mean
So
like
the
to
process-
go
Go
in
to the
and
town
get the
office.
The
permit.
process right now for the right of way
Let's do it
permits
online.
is different.
Yeah.
Let's do it
No,
online.
yeah.
It's like this
The-
wonky thing that needs multiple department okays.
Yeah.
That's fine for when we're doing work in the right of way or they're encumbering the right of way in some way.
It should just be easier for
But this is
parking.
just a parking space. I'm not doing
Yeah.
anything in the right of
Then,
way.
yeah, I think
We can
online would be the
Toolbox.
best.
I want
Across
4
the park.
spaces. We have people that will be like, I want 4 of these spaces for the month.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, but they do that.
well, I know, we gotta be I think we need to be more judicious on how we say, give them 4 spaces.
But I think we could do it online and you give them a number and then they can put the number in their window or something like that.
Well, no,
Because the
we,
job has 4
it's-
contractors working out there and there's 4 guys with a pickup truck. 4 guys in their pickup truck shouldn't have 4 spaces on Main Street when they're only really working out of 1 truck. But the guys, you know what I mean? It's not
Well,
every
that's-
contractor there needs.
we put a price on those parking spaces for contractors, and that would be via permit, and then when they want to,
Day-long price
get
is
a-
gonna be steep.
well, yeah,
That's what
yeah.
it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and it could be I'm envisioning that a contractor could register for that permit, just like a resident registers for their 2-hour free permit. They could be, I just need to figure out what
Right,
that looks
right.
like, so.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Your bigger
Okay.
issue is to go into 3 places.
What's that?
Your bigger issue is them having to go to 3 different departments.
Yeah. Yeah, for
But
just a parking
That's my,
space.
that was the same idea I had for like these guys or other people on Chestnut Street or whatever, who live near the downtown and they want to have the company, they could come to the town office beforehand, say,
Or go
I've got-
online.
or go online. I've
Yeah.
got somebody coming from this date to this date and I was hoping to use a space in front of my things. It's a fee, but they could have, it'd be less than paying for parking the whole time.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
but at the same time, I mean,
Landscaper, you said a tree guy comes.
I got a
and
plumber at
trims the
$80
tree.
an hour and they come and it just bill you, it just goes onto the bill.
Right, it does.
They
Yeah.
sit there for 4 hours and they put money in the meter and then just,
When
they
I,
charge it as part of the expense of doing the job.
when I meet with.
I'd rather have that than have them park over at the mill and walk over there 4 times
Yeah.
at $80 an hour.
I'll add this question to my conversation with the
I'm just
parking
saying,
people
most would
next
just
week.
do it and
Get
pass it
some-
on.
Options.
Best on.
I mean, you've already paid them some of these ones I paid to come over from Lewiston. I got to pay their travel time. It's just another expense that gets passed on.
But the goal, I think he's trying to just make it more streamlined. So they
Yeah.
don't have to ask.
It's just easy, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
Whiskey, start to warm up.
Well, you know, it's.
We're looking at it. You don't come and say anything then.
No, there's not. The thing is that nobody seems to.
Russell, you're a senior.
Yeah.